Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to see everyone. Hello. How y'all doing? I hope you are doing amazing today. I am in a good mood today. Let me tell you. I don't know why, but good mood today. Good mood. Feeling good. So, what can we talk about today? What are today's big topics? Well, there's actually quite a bit we can talk about. So, there's a lot that's come out actually over the last few days. Not a ton in terms of like big game announcements or anything like that, but in terms of news stories, there's actually quite a lot we can discuss today. So, couple things. First of all, we just got announced this morning a brand new Twisted Metal live action series that's going to be coming from Sony and PlayStation. We found out it's going to star Anthony Mackie, who of course is best known for his role as Falcon and then moving forward now as Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's a pretty big get. He's a pretty big actor, so that is a nice get for the show. Also a lot of talent involved in the creative capacities, right? We have the writers for Deadpool that are executive producing this show. We know that they're funny. We know that those guys know what they're doing there. And also the lead writer for this series is going to be from Cobra Kai. And Cobra Kai is another show. I don't personally watch it, but it's really beloved. A lot of people like Cobra Kai. A lot of people like the humor and also the characters. So clearly there's some talent there on the writing side as well. So looking good. We can talk about that show. What do we expect from it? It's yet another in a long list of live action movies and shows that Sony is clearly pursuing. So we can talk about that. August NPD results have dropped, so we have all that news in terms of video game sales, hardware sales. I'm going to break down the top 20 and the results for you here in just a second so we can talk about that. There was a big Nvidia leak, and we can talk about that. I actually have some stuff I do want to talk about in regards to that Nvidia leak, so we can go over that. What it means, what all there is real. I have some insight on that, so we can discuss that if you want to, and a whole bunch more, right? Jeff Grubb hinting at more big video game delays, etc., etc. So for anyone, if this is your first time in this stream, basically this is a show that's 100% driven by you. Your comments, your questions. That's what we do. We break down the video game industry here. We do it once a week, so make sure if you're in chat, you're dropping your comments, you're dropping your questions, so we have plenty to get to today. There's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there is the free method. You just type a question, enter it into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can per chat. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. Put in a donation of whatever you want. It gives me an alert, and I get to super chats immediately. However, as always, don't feel obligated, don't feel pressured or anything like that to donate into chat. That's just a way to help support me and help support the channel. Okay, let me really quick break down the NPD results for you, and then we are going to start going into y'all's questions. Okay, so in terms of hardware, number one console for the month in terms of units was the Switch yet again for, I believe, the 33rd consecutive month. That is right. Not a single month since the new consoles have launched have they outsold the Switch in the US, and also even dating before that, right? The Switch is just seemingly unstoppable in the US in terms of hitting number one. So Switch was your best-selling console in terms of units. However, in terms of revenue, PlayStation 5 did generate the highest dollar sales. So while Switch sold more units, PS5, of course, since it's a lot more expensive than the Switch, it generated more money. However, also worth noting, PlayStation 5, after 10 months, is still the fastest selling PlayStation console ever in the US. So it continues to outpace the PS4 at almost a full year into its life cycle. So clearly PlayStation 5 having tremendous sales, and Switch also continuing to have incredible momentum. In terms of your top 20, here's your top 20 really quick. Madden 22 debuts at number 1. No surprise there, it's Madden. Madden's always gigantic in the US. Ghost of Tsushima hits at number 2, and that's a climb from 110. So it goes from the 110th best-selling game last month up to number 2 this month, of course, off the strength of the Director's Cut launch. So amazing month there for Ghost of Tsushima to hit number 2. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War continues to have incredible legs. That's at number 3. Humankind debuts at number 4. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Again, this game's legs in the United States are just incredible. It's at number 5. This game basically hasn't left the top 10 since it came out. It just continues to perform amazing, right? Spider-Man with that strong momentum still. Mario Kart 8 comes in at number 6. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, a nice second month here at number 7. So still stays in your top 10 for Skyward Sword. Number 8 is Minecraft. Number 9, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Of course, another game that's showing great legs. Number 10, MLB The Show 21. Number 11, Smash Brothers Ultimate. Number 12, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Number 13, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Number 14, Animal Crossing New Horizons. 15, Pokemon Sword and Shield. 16, Mortal Kombat 11. 17, Super Mario 3D World. 18, Zelda Breath of the Wild. 19, Super Mario Golf Rush. And number 20, Mario Party. So this month was really the month of legs, right? Not a ton of big new debuts in here. Of course, we have Madden, and of course, we have like Humankind hitting in that top 5. But if you look down that list of that top 20, it's a lot of leggy games. So it wasn't a huge month for new releases, but we see a lot of games with tremendous legs. So there's your NPD breakdown. I'm going to go ahead and start diving into your comments and questions, everybody. Let me start diving in. We got some super chats right off the bat. We got Timmer72299 with a 2 super chat saying, no question today. Just wanted to show my support. Thank you so much, Timmer. Thanks for all the great work that you do over on Twitter. Thanks for always supporting me and the channel. I saw you dug up some interesting stuff. I think one thing I saw from you was that looks like Contraband's been in development, I think you said since 2018. Pretty interesting. That means that game has several years of development under it. So good dig up there, and keep up the great work, Timmer. Plastic Arts Podcast with a 10 super chat. Benji boy, when are you going to start a separate MMA stream / podcast so I can quit bugging you here? Thoughts on Nintendo just now enabling Bluetooth on Switch a whole 4.5 years later? First of all, thank you so much, Plastic Hearts Podcast, for that 10 super chat. In terms of an MMA stream / podcast, I actually would love to do that. I don't know if there's enough interest in my audience for that. But I would love to, you know, as I always say on these chats, whenever it gets brought up and Twitter, you know, like kind of my second big passion. I mean, I have a lot of passions. I'm a bit of a, you know, it sounds cheesy to coin yourself as like a Renaissance man, but if for anyone that knows the meaning of that word, it just means you have like a ton of interests. I'm one of those kinds of people. I'm super interested in science. I'm super interested in astronomy. I'm super interested in video games. I'm super interested in music. I'm super interested in MMA. You know, I could go down the list, like so much stuff. But MMA is definitely right up there with my most interested things. I would love to do a combat sports podcast or stream. I just don't know that there's enough demand for something like that. It could happen in the future. Definitely not going to rule it out. But, you know, we'll have to see. In terms of Switch getting Bluetooth support, thank God, right? It's finally time. I think many people have been waiting for this for a long time. You know, it's a portable console, and a lot of people nowadays use Bluetooth headphones, right? Not a whole lot of people are using, you know, the regular standard 3.5 millimeter jack that you plug in for a headset, right? The vast majority of earbuds and just over-the-ear headphones that are selling nowadays are Bluetooth. And even phones, right? You're seeing phones drop the 3.5 millimeter jack. So thank goodness, this is awesome. I'm really glad Nintendo did this because, as I said, most people's headsets now are Bluetooth devices. So it took them a while, as tends to be the case with Nintendo technology, right? They tend to lag behind the rest of the industry when it comes to this stuff. But my opinion here is better late than never. I'm very glad they did that. And it's good, right? Nothing but good news here. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts, for that 10 super chat. And thanks for always being so supportive. Oh, and you have a second super chat here. Plastic Hearts Podcast again with a 5. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts. Are you playing Deathloop on PS5/PC? Have you had issues or kept up with some of the public issues people are having with it, Steam review bombs, etc.? I bought it on PlayStation 5. I'm primarily a console gamer. I have a PC, but it is a little outdated now. I have a 980 Ti in my PC and an i7 4770K. I can play pretty much most games, but I can't really max out most games anymore. So I would need to do like a complete PC rebuild to get, my PC on the level of what, most games are going to run at maxed out nowadays. So, and at some point I do want to do that, build a new PC. But as of the moment, I'm primarily a console gamer. So I picked up Deathloop on PlayStation 5. I have not started it yet. I am working right now on Life is Strange True Colors, which is, simply incredible. And after that's Tales of Arise, and then after that's Deathloop. But there's so many games right now, it's like crazy. It's going to be so hard to fit everything in. But in terms of PC, it does seem that it has some issues. So I can't speak to that personally. Like I said, haven't played the game on PC, but I have seen that it's getting review bombed, and a lot of people are having like stuttering issues. So that is a bummer. But I'll be playing it on PlayStation 5. All right, Super Chats are cleared for now. Let's start diving into your free questions. Split End 89, best mod in the business here right at the top. How in the world is the 2022 Game Awards not going to snub a bunch of games? It's nuts how much is probably hitting next year. Next year is going to be insane. So shout out and major props to whatever game wins Game of the Year next year. Like, you're going to have to basically be a legendary game to win next year. It is unbelievably stacked. And think about this. Look how stacked the year is. And we still have a ton of unannounced games that are going to come next year, right? You look at just the first 3 months of 2022. And that literally looks like a holiday level lineup, right? And that's just the first 3 months. Once you start getting into Q3 and Q4 next year, it's pure madness. It is pure madness. If you're a dev that like has your eyes on like, we want to make Game of the Year, and trust me, there are teams that like that is the internal goal. I know for a fact many PlayStation Studios, for example, they view it that way, right? If you're at Naughty Dog, you want to be making that next Game of the Year caliber game. If you're Sony Santa Monica, of course, all devs would love to have Game of the Year, but there's some teams like that is an internal goal. We need to make the best game this year. And good luck. That is all I can say. Good luck, because just the sheer number of games is astounding across all platforms, right? That's the insane thing, too, about next year. It's not just like, oh, PlayStation's clearly going to have a big year, with God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, I could go down the list, right? Clearly a huge year for PlayStation. But then you also have a massive year for Nintendo, right? You're going to have Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. You're going to have Splatoon. You're going to have a ton of stuff there from them as well. Then you look at Xbox, and it's going to be a monster year for Xbox. You got games like Redfall. You got games like Starfield. And then you have all those third-party games like Elden Ring, etc., etc. It's madness, right? It's complete madness. I feel sympathy for devs trying to get Game of the Year next year, because it's going to be brutal. It is going to be brutal. Next year on paper. Now, of course, we still need to play these games. We need to see what the quality is. But on paper, 2022 looks like one of the best years of all time for games, right? I'm not going to come out and tell you, oh, it's instantly number one. None of these games are out. We don't know the level of quality. But just on paper, just looking at that lineup, it's one of the best years ever. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a completely crazy year. Can be. We keep referring to chip shortages, but in reality, both the PS5 and Xbox are both still selling way more than the PS4 and Xbox One. Yep, over their first 10 months. Considering neither console has released a real killer app yet, why do you think they're so much more popular than past gens? Is it still the COVID impact or something else? This is a great question, Ken B. Well worded, and you bring up some great points. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. First of all, definitely pandemic impact. It plays a role, right? It's impossible to deny. Now, we're kind of past the point of lockdown, so we're not really at the same level that we were necessarily next year where people weren't going places. And I know some places still have lockdowns, right? I'm not saying that that's no factor, but I'm saying last year we saw way more widespread lockdowns than we're seeing currently. So, of course, that's still playing some factor, but I think the bigger impact of the pandemic is I think it turned a lot of people into gamers that weren't gamers or maybe were lapsed gamers. I really do believe that that plays a factor, right? People that maybe got into video games for the first time over this past year in a big way because they didn't traditionally play it. They got stuck in lockdowns. They needed something to do last year, so they went out and bought a console. I mean, there was a lot of that going on, and those people aren't going to just instantly bounce out, right? So you have that factor. You have the factor of maybe people that were lapsed gamers, right? Maybe they played a bunch whenever they were a kid or a teenager. They got out of it for some years, and then they were like, the lockdowns, you know what, I'm going to get back into gaming. So you have that whole factor. I think you have the factor that the last gen was pretty darn long, right? Which is becoming the norm, right? Generations traditionally are lasting longer ever since the PS3 and 360 days. But again, it was a long time before these consoles came out, so there's all that pent-up demand. And there's also just the fact gaming's bigger than ever, right? Gaming has never been as big as it is right now. It just continues to grow. There continues to be more and more money in this space, more and more games. It's just all these factors coming together to create massive demand for these platforms. So yeah, it's a bummer because these could be even selling better than they are now, y'all. Think about how impressive it is, the rate the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S are selling. And then keep in mind, that is with massive sellouts. These consoles could be selling even faster. So yeah, it's amazing, right? This is nothing but good news for the industry. If I'm a publisher, if I'm a developer, and I see this kind of momentum, it definitely doesn't make you scared to greenlight big AAA games, right? You're seeing all this momentum and you're like, yeah, we got to support these consoles. We got to make games. So nothing but good news. Nothing but good news. JCat saying hi. What is up, JCat? So good to see you. Thanks for helping mod the channel. Michael Yu. No Clip just dropped an hour documentary on the making of Prey on YouTube. I think Prey is Arkane's best work to date. I haven't played Deathloop yet. Yeah, I love Prey. Is it my favorite Arkane game? Could be. Could be. You know what? I think it is. I think I'm in agreement with you, Michael Yu. I'll have to watch that. I am a massive fan. Massive fan of Prey. And No Clip does amazing work. Tim and Natron. Hey, Benji, what's your game of the year so far? Ooh, that is tough. That is tough. Oh, man. Game of the year so far. Like I've been talking about, this is a tough one because this is a year where I feel like we have so many games that are in a very comparable position. We have a lot of games that are reviewing very similarly, right? Now, is there a lot of games that are reviewing bad? Of course, you always have that. But what I mean is like the top games of this year, we have so many games that are bunched up in that like 86 to 88 Metacritic range. Like there's so many that are 86, 87, 88, like just right there next to each other. It might be Returnal. Right after I finished Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, I was kind of thinking it was Ratchet & Clank, but the game that has stuck with me longer is Returnal. Like in my mind, I still think about Returnal a lot and how cool that game was. Psychonauts 2 was amazing. That is right up there for me as well. And I'll tell you what, Life is Strange True Colors is right up there for me. I'm on episode 3 right now, and I am completely blown away. Completely. Now, I love the Life is Strange series in general, but True Colors has done so many improvements. I mean, I'm blown away with True Colors. So it's really hard for me to pick one. I can straight up tell you, Tim, that I don't have that game that in my mind is like, this is game of the year that I've played so far. I really don't. I have a lot that are like very, very close to each other. But I think the game that's like had the biggest impact, like I just keep coming back to like, man, there was some cool stuff that was done in this game. I think it's Returnal, surprisingly. But yeah, I don't know. That's not like me straight up telling you this is my game of the year, but it's up there. It's up there. But there's still more I gotta play. Still gotta play Tales of Arise. Still gotta play Deathloop, etc. Raven Hunter, hey, long time. I've been on this stream. How you been, Benji? I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for being in the stream, Raven Hunter. Totally all good. You haven't been here for a while. I'm good. Things are going good. The Twitter keeps kind of blowing up. It's kind of insane. I didn't even realize it, but I recently passed 27,000 on there, so that's cool. I randomly noticed that today. Have a personal goal of passing 30,000 before the end of the year, and I think that's probably going to happen, looking at the current pace. So that's really cool for my Twitter. That's my main platform. Super happy to see the YouTube finally get over that 3,000 subs. And my personal life's pretty good too right now, right? Like, of course, I always still have those depression spikes. Everyone that knows me knows I struggle with that stuff, but overall good, Raven Hunter, and I hope you're doing good too. Things are looking good for Benji at the moment. I think we just had a super chat drop. We did. Benji here with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. Hey, Benji, should Take-Two/Rockstar be careful with the way they handle Grand Theft Auto? Grand Theft Auto 5 Next Gen trailer reception was bad. Could this impact the brand? You know, this is a fascinating question, Benji. Fascinating. So for anyone that didn't see it, yeah, the overall sentiment around that Grand Theft Auto 5 trailer was really bad. Really bad. It was the only trailer from the PlayStation Showcase that had a negative like to dislike ratio on YouTube. It also, from rumblings, some investors are not happy with what was shown there. And to be honest, just from an outsider perspective, just looking at it, it didn't really look better than the PS4 or Xbox One version. Like, honestly, I mean, I'm sure there are some improvements there, but if you just look at it from a face value, like you just glanced at that trailer, I thought it was going to look way better than it did, to be honest with you, like way better. And there was even glitches in that trailer that are carryovers from the PS4 and Xbox One versions that people pointed out, like apparently missing gun clips, license plates turning yellow instead of white. These are like leftover bugs that have been in the game for a while. So yeah, I was surprised. I really thought this was going to look quite a bit better. Now, did I expect this to literally look like a different game? No, I don't think really anyone thought, oh, this is going to look like Grand Theft Auto 6, right? But I thought it would be a bigger jump than that. Now, the question is, does this like massively hurt the brand or massively hurt sales? I'm going to say no. What I will say here, though, Benji, I think this might sell less than Take-Two think. And I know Grand Theft Auto has been such a juggernaut, right? I know it has been such a monster. And do I mean that suddenly, Grand Theft Auto 5's legs are just going to stop? No, but what I mean, if this looked like a significant improvement, right? Like a big jump, I think you would see a lot of people buy this game yet again that have already bought it, to get those enhancements because, people clearly have double and triple dipped on this game. If it looked like a big jump, I think you would have shifted a freaking ton of copies. However, since this looks, at least as of now, so freaking similar to the PS4 and Xbox One versions, I could see a lot of people just still playing those, right? They already own them. The game's backwards compatible on PS5 and Series X anyways. If it ain't a big jump, I could see so many people being like, I already have the game. It already will literally play on my new console. I don't need to go out and buy this. It doesn't look like a big jump. So I really do think that that's a possibility. Now, this has been delayed till March of next year, I believe. So maybe it looks like a bigger jump once we get closer to launch, right? Maybe there's still some stuff they haven't shown. But as of now, if what we see is reflective of the final thing, I think this game's still going to sell for years and years. I think it's still going to be huge, still be gigantic. But I could see a scenario where the next-gen versions of GTA 5 just aren't as big as Rockstar and Take-Two thought, right? Still huge. It's still Grand Theft Auto, but maybe not at the levels they expected. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I really thought there was going to be more in this. Frostbite Slash with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Frostbite. As a diehard PS fan, was it just me or did the PS event feel a small bit underwhelming? I was a bit annoyed we had to sit through an advertisement and 30 minutes of multiplats to get to the good stuff. I was in a similar boat, Frostbite. Now, I think this was a good show, right? I don't think that it was bad. I thought those last 10 minutes were incredible, right? Anyone that watched my reaction, I streamed a live reaction on this. As soon as we hit the PlayStation Studios stuff, I was losing my crap, right? Whenever they showed God of War Ragnarok, I was completely hyped. Whenever they showed Spider-Man 2, I was completely hyped, right? Like, those last 10 minutes were incredible, right? Wolverine, hyped out of my mind. So I thought the last 10 minutes was a freaking 10 out of 10. But I do somewhat agree with you, Frostbite Slash, that I thought having such a, section of just straight third-party games, where I think so many of us were really there for the first-party stuff. And the other thing about that first chunk of third-party games is there wasn't many new announcements too, right? Most of those games were just looks at stuff we've already seen before, right? A new Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, a new Rainbow Six Extraction trailer. So I think that's why you saw some of the negative sentiment online. I think some people were like, we're getting a lot of trailers for stuff we've already seen. Where are these first-party games? Where are the new third-party announcements? And I think that's kind of why you've seen somewhat of a mixed reception, but I think people are mostly happy with how that show ended, right? The fact it ended so strong really elevated the rest of the show overall. So for me personally, Frostbite, I thought it was like an 8 out of 10, which is a good score, right? 8 out of 10, very solid. Was like a completely blown away 10 out of 10 showcase? Not necessarily. I think if we would have had like 2 or 3 really big third-party announcements in there as well, I might have given that a 10 out of 10, right? If you saw something like Dragon's Dogma 2, you saw something like, even though it's been announced, a brand new Final Fantasy 16 trailer, right? That would be pretty big. It was nice to see Forspoken again, but a couple more new announcements from third parties that were really big, and it could have hit that 9 or 10 for me. But it was an 8 for me. Still super good. Those last 10 minutes were insane. And but I get the sentiment, Frostbite. I totally get feeling somewhat underwhelmed by it because there was so much there that we've already seen. So I totally get it. All right, super chats are cleared for now. Let me go back to free questions. Sounds PP7. Benji, how significant are the great reviews for Deathloop? And do you see it outperforming Prey and Dishonored? Great question, Sounds PP7. I think they are pretty significant. I was not going to buy Deathloop day one, and I went out and bought it. Like, I was, excited for Deathloop, but I'll be honest, I was one of those people that none of the trailers blew me away, right? Like, I was, put it this way, at least on a surface level, watching the trailers, which we had a million of, I was less excited for Dishonored than I thought of for Deathloop than I thought of Prey and Dishonored, right? I love both of those games. And Deathloop, I was kind of like, this looks good, but I'm not like blown away by the concept. But those reviews were so strong, so many people saying it was their game of the year, that even me, right? I was like, you know what? If it's this freaking good, I need to go out and buy it. So do I think it has some impact? I do. I really think that it does have some impact. Now, is it going to instantly make this game #1 on NPD? I don't think so. But I do think it definitely boosts sales. When you get scores that strong, it's almost a 90. I think it's at like 88 on Meta. And some sites like GameSpot gave this a 10 out of 10. That is going to have an impact. There's just no way around it. It's going to have an impact. I think it definitely will outsell Prey, like for sure. Because Prey didn't perform that well. And even as an exclusive, I think Deathloop will outsell Prey, personally. I think that's pretty likely because Prey was not a big hit. As much as people loved that game, it just didn't sell. I don't think it'll be as big as Dishonored, though. Dishonored 1 sold very well. Dishonored 2 sold a bit less, at least at launch. I don't know legs long term if Dishonored 2 ended up outselling Dishonored, but it seems that 2 might not have been quite as big as Dishonored 1 overall. But either way, the Dishonored games are pretty big for Arcane. That is definitely like their most flagship series in terms of sales for them. So I don't know that I see it outperforming Dishonored, to be honest with you, especially with Dishonored being fully multi-platform. But I do think you see Deathloop outsell Prey. Yeah, I do. I think Deathloop will be bigger than Prey. Pio White Wolf saying, what up, Benji? What is up, Pio? What is up, man? Thanks for being in the stream. I saw you're starting to get into the streaming stuff yourself. That's awesome, buddy. Thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for being hype, and thanks for being positive, bro. So good to see you, buddy. Split End 89 saying you need to watch Cobra Kai. I know, so many people tell me that. I need to watch it. Yeah, people rave about Cobra Kai. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm not like disinterested in Cobra Kai. I'm just like so busy with my media. Like I'm so focused on video games because I try to, I'm trying to build a platform. I'm trying to build coverage on games, and I love games in general. So I'm like so bogged down in games all the time. It's hard for me to make time to watch new shows because shows are also such a time investment, right? You watch a series with multiple seasons, that's a lot of hours to commit to. So I hear great things about Cobra Kai. I'm absolutely going to watch it at some point, but yeah, haven't gotten to it yet. Michael Yu, Battlefield is supposed to be the game that's being delayed. I guess we'll know soon enough. Yes, so let's touch on this really quick. Jeff Grubb teased on his Twitter that there is going to be another game delay, right? Now, this hasn't been officially announced, at least as of yet. Maybe it happened during the stream, but people are theorizing around what this game could be. I can tell you I don't have inside info that it's Battlefield. I don't know what this game is that he's hinting at, but Battlefield does seem to make the most sense. If you just look at the games that are coming, if this is a big game, right? This is assuming that Jeff is teasing something big and not like a random game like Shadow Warriors 3 or something like that getting delayed. Not that I'm like discounting smaller games, but you get what I'm saying, right? I feel like if you're going to come out and tease it on Twitter, I don't want to speak for Jeff here, but if you're going to get like this much attention, I feel like you're teasing something big getting delayed, right? Like a big game. Forza Horizon 5, I can't see it. The game already looks freaking done almost, right? Like you look at how much videos they're putting out, it already looks extremely polished. And this Forza Horizon actually already had an extra year of development over previous Forza Horizons. So that to me seems extremely unlikely that it'd be Forza Horizon 5. I also think it's extremely unlikely Halo Infinite gets delayed again. It's already been delayed an entire full year. They have those Series X consoles coming out. They have the Master Chief controllers coming out. They're already delaying stuff like Forge and things like that to make sure the game gets out the gate. I can't see it being Halo either. Far Cry 6 already had its big hands-on media impressions. We have Guardians of the Galaxy, which already went gold. Like, you see what I'm getting at? Like, there ain't that many other games it can be. So Battlefield absolutely makes the most sense here to me, Michael Yu. And I'm just very interested if it is Battlefield, how big the delay is. Is it a few weeks or is it to next year? That to me is the big question. I know a lot of people that played the alpha came away not very impressed with it, that got into that. I heard there was a lot of technical issues, a lot of glitches. It felt like it needed a lot more polish. So that is the question to me. Is Battlefield just going to get delayed a couple weeks like Tom Henderson's hinting at? But then you also see other people hinting that it's actually delayed till 2022. So that's going to be the interesting thing here. That's going to be the interesting thing. Tell you what, great news for Call of Duty. I think Halo's player base is different enough that the impact on Halo specifically isn't quite as big because Halo plays radically different than both Call of Duty and Battlefield. And I know those games play quite a bit different from each other also anyways. But Halo is like, it's completely different. It's sci-fi. It's an arena type shooter. It's just like, it doesn't really play anything like those other two games. So I think the impact on Halo specifically, if it gets delayed, isn't that huge. But for Call of Duty, if Call of Duty can actually hit first, like if they delay Battlefield past Call of Duty, that is great news for them. That is great news for Call of Duty. Not that Call of Duty is not already a massive brand, but trust me, if this gets delayed past Call of Duty, there's going to be some celebrations going on over at Activision. I can guarantee you that. And then also second question here from Michael Yu. Switch is unstoppable. With OLED Switch coming out, do you think Switch will continue to lead in 2022? Michael, next year is going to be the year you start to see Switch getting outsold. Now, are there months that Switch is going to outsell PS5 and Series X and S? Yep, there's definitely going to be months. There will be months, I assume, that Switch will be number one. But will you see Switch in 2022 literally be the best-selling console every single month like it's been for almost the last 3 years in the US? Nope. That will come to an end. I can promise you that. These consoles are going to start getting their biggest games. You're going to start to get God of War. You're going to start to get Horizon. You're going to start to get Starfield, right? Like, the heavy hitters are going to start dropping on these consoles, and you're also likely going to see improvements in production. Now, chip shortages, we know, are still going to last into next year, but they should be improving over what's been happening this past year. So there's not a doubt in my mind that Switch will get outsold more than 1 month next year. Like, I think you're going to see quite a few months, actually, that the Switch gets outsold. But you will also see months where Switch is number one. But it is going to be more competitive. It will, without a doubt, it'll be more competitive next year. No doubt. Let me make sure I haven't missed any super chats. I don't think I have. Nope, we are good. Benji here. Hi, Benji. What is the next big Sony video game franchise you see after the announcement of Twisted Metal? Oh, for live action? Well, let's look. We already know that there's a Ghost of Tsushima movie coming. We already know there's a Last of Us series. We already know there's an Uncharted movie. So what IP makes sense? Interesting. What IP makes sense if we're looking at live action? I mean, God of War would be hype. I don't know if they would do God of War, but that would be freaking nuts, right? I mean, a live action God of War would be insane. But that story in particular and that franchise, I wonder if that's one that they would want to do live action in. I could actually definitely see an animated God of War series. Like, I could totally see that, right? Like a really cool animation style God of War series on Netflix or something. Like, I could absolutely see that. But would they want to bring God of War into live action? The budget would have to be pretty astronomical. Now, we know that Sony's is willing to spend a lot of money. The rumors about how much and the reporting that how much the Last of Us HBO series costs are staggering. I mean, you have Pedro Pascal out here making almost $1 million per episode by himself. He's making like $750,000 an episode. Crazy. So clearly Sony's willing to spend money. But to me, it seems like God of War would be another level past that. The amount of CG you'd have to invest for the gods, the big giants fights, with these like mythical creatures. Like, ooh, that's an expensive budget. I think God of War would be the biggest out of any IP they have left that hasn't been announced for a movie or show. But I don't know if they're willing to spend that much. But I'll just throw it out there. I'll say God of War. But I can most likely see God of War being animated. I think if we do get a God of War show or something like that, probably animation. JCat, great question. A lot of people have been asking me about this. Psychonauts 2 didn't chart on any of the NPD charts. Do you think this is because of Game Pass? JCat, I do. I believe we are starting to get substantial evidence that Game Pass is cannibalizing first-party sales. I think so. I think I've seen enough now to come out and say that pretty definitively. Now, is that in every case scenario? No. A lot of people want to paint Game Pass, I see this discussion online a lot, fully one way or another. Game Pass strictly boosts sales, or Game Pass kills every single game sales. You see so much of that. It's all one way or it's all the other way. I think it is more nuanced than that. I think there's no doubt there's evidence that some games it has boosted their sales. You've even seen devs themselves say that. But I do think there is substantial evidence, particularly with first party. The main selling point of Game Pass, of course these third-party games are great. These third-party deals are amazing. But the main selling point, the way Microsoft really marketed Game Pass, is getting those Xbox games day one. And I think we are starting to see evidence, whether it's Gears, whether it's Flight Sim, which has charted, by the way, but whether it's Psychonauts, etc., I think there is substantial evidence that these games, first party in particular, I think it's less so third party, but primarily in a first party sense, I do think that Game Pass is cannibalizing sales on those titles. Now, I also want to make sure to emphasize something here. That is not necessarily a bad thing. You see some people immediately assume that. I've talked about it on this channel here before. I have heard from Microsoft employees themselves that the main focus at Xbox on games nowadays isn't really about selling games. Do they want to sell games? Yes. Would they love if Psychonauts 2 sold 10 million copies? Absolutely. But sales, unlike PlayStation or Nintendo, Microsoft does not judge a game's performance strictly on how many units it sells anymore. That's not the main metric. The main metric for Microsoft is engagement levels and Game Pass subs, right? Sales would go after those. So you've got, number one, them Game Pass sub drivers. Number two, how much engagement is that game getting through Game Pass and things like that. And number three is going to be sales, right? It's going to be lower than both of those numbers. So it's not one of those things that sales is completely not important at all for Xbox games, but their strategy is just different. So I think in terms of Microsoft, how they are going to view Psychonauts 2 as a success or not is going to be how many people are playing this on Game Pass, how many new subs do they feel they got from it, and are a ton of people playing it, right? Is it one of those things that you have, I'm assuming they're probably pretty close to 30 million subs now. Are you getting a few million players on Psychonauts 2, right? Psychonauts 2 is not a giant branded game. I think if you get a few million people to play that game on Game Pass, I think that's a success. That's going to be more important to them than sales numbers. But strictly the question, did it not chart, I think, because of Game Pass? Yes, that I would say yes. Yep. I think some first-party games are definitely getting cannibalized. Which makes sense, right? I don't think that's a shocking observation or even a bad one. I've made this comment with Halo Infinite. Don't be surprised if Halo Infinite sales don't look that spectacular, right? Do not be shocked. Do not be shocked if sales numbers come out for Halo Infinite and they don't blow you away. I'm telling you that right now. I think it'll be big on Steam, but on consoles in particular, don't be surprised when they're not huge numbers. And again, that's not a bad thing. It would be a bad thing if there was no Game Pass, right? I know it's a long answer, but I feel like it's a pretty important topic. If there was no Game Pass was not a thing, and you saw something like Halo not light the charts on fire, that would be alarming, right? But with Game Pass, it makes things different. Hanato saying, hello, Benji. Great to see you here today. Great to see you too, Hanato. Thanks for being in chat. Funny question here from Fizzy. Benji, why is Sony still selling the PS5 version of Horizon Forbidden West for $70? Are they just trying to trick people into paying more? I don't think, Fizzy, that it's a trick thing now that they have the free upgrade. I think it's just to keep that perspective that PS5 games are $70 across the board from first party, like their flagship games, as the main thing, right? I don't think that Sony themselves, since they are committed to the $70 price point, I don't think they want to be launching first-party games on PS5, that version, at $60. Because once you start doing that, then you start seeing people be like, well, Horizon was $60. How come God of War $70? Whatever. I pick a random game. How come Gran Turismo $70? Why isn't this one $60? I think it's literally just sticking to that $70 price tag, even though this is a $60 version, just to keep that in people's heads. Hey, PS5 games from Sony, they're $70. Even though there's a free upgrade for this one, you know what? Once you put that PS5 label and that PS5 version on it, it's $70. So I think that's the main reason. I don't think that they're really trying to trick people. I think it's just to commit to that price tag. Now, whether you like or agree with that price tag, that's a different story. But in terms of why Sony hasn't lowered the PS5 version to $60 to match the PS4 after the free upgrade, I think that's the main thing. I don't think they want people out there with the idea of $60 PS5 games. King of the Dry Bones. What's your favorite Tales game, Benji? Ooh. I'm a bit of a weirdo in my Tales preferences. I really liked Berseria, which I know some people don't. I really liked Zillia 1. Tales of Zillia 1 I really liked. I really liked Berseria. Of course, Vesperia is amazing. I actually haven't played Symphonia, which I know is going to be blasphemy to some Tales fans, but I have not played Symphonia. I did not like Zestiria, I can tell you that. Did not like that game. So those would be my top three. My top three personally for the Tales games. I haven't started Arise yet, but my top three would be Vesperia, Zillia 1, and Berseria. Those are going to be my three favorite Tales games. But again, keep in mind I haven't played Symphonia, which for a lot of people is their favorite. So keep that in mind with that ranking. Danger Man 1337. I ordered Deathloop for PS5, but I missed my Tuesday delivery slot. Oh no! Hopefully my redelivery was successful. Yes, hopefully, Danger Man. Hopefully, because I'm hearing amazing things about it. Vyas here, or Vyas. What are your expectations for Hellblade 2? My expectations are again similar to Psychonauts. I don't think it'll be a massive seller. I think a lot of these Xbox franchises, first party particular, are not going to light charts on fire. However, what do I think about Hellblade 2 overall? I think it'll be a big and important game for the platform. And what do I mean by that? You still see, despite how many clearly good games now Microsoft first party studios are making. I mean, if you look at their reviews for this year for the first party stuff, Flight Sim, excellent reviews. You look at Psychonauts 2, excellent reviews. You got Forza Horizon 5, which unless something shocking happens with that game, you can kind of already assume you're looking at the very least, a high 80s Metacritic. And keep in mind, the last two Forza Horizons were both 90 plus. So it's like, even if it dips a bit in quality from those, which we don't know, put it this way, it would be shocking to me to see Forza Horizon 5 get anything lower than an 85, right? 85 would be a pretty big drop even from Forza Horizon 3 and 4. And I could easily see it being 90 plus. So clearly, we have hit the point now that Xbox Studios is pumping out some quality games. But the main thing you still see people point at is, where are those cinematic games, right? Where are those games that compete with the top of the industry in terms of story, that are competing with the top of the industry in terms of, like, you know, pure visual quality, things like that. That's still a talking point. And I think Hellblade 2 is a very important game in that portfolio to show that Xbox doesn't have to do what PlayStation's doing, but they can have those games as well, right? Because I think Xbox doesn't look at their first party like, we need to copy Sony. We need to have all these third-person, cinematic, story games. Like, Xbox kind of is viewing their studios as doing lots of different stuff. But if you do lots of different stuff, I think you still do need to have some of those kinds of games, because they're clearly popular. And Hellblade 2 is kind of that game, right? That's that game that's going to have that third-person perspective. We know Ninja Theory is pushing the visuals as hard as possible. We know it's going to have a heavy narrative focus. So I expect that to be really big for the platform to prove that they can do those kinds of games, that it can deliver those kinds of games on Xbox as well. So maybe you won't get as many of those types of games as you do on PlayStation, but you can still get some. So that's kind of what I'm expecting out of that, why I think it's important to have a game like Hellblade 2, but I don't expect it to be like this massive seller, to be honest. I think a lot of people are going to play Hellblade, just like they're going to play a lot of other Xbox games through Game Pass. Danger Man, Battlefield 2042 delay is likely to happen to late November or even push to first half of 2022. Yeah, that is the question. You know, I mentioned that earlier. I'm very curious, very curious. On one hand, I could see EA just being like, listen, we have to get this game out for the holidays. Did you guys see what happened to the stock price? Just based off this rumor, I'm not kidding, just based off this rumor in the last day, EA's stock price has taken a blast, and that's without even an official announcement. Shareholders are expecting this game to be a juggernaut this holiday. So part of me can't see it getting delayed out of this holiday purely because EA is like, yo, we have got to get this out this year before the holidays. So part of me leans towards, hey, probably late November, but I don't know. Depends on how much work the game needs. Just really depends. And technically, we don't know Battlefield's the game that's getting delayed. It's just that seems the most obvious, right? That seems to be the game that makes the most sense. I think we might have had a super chat. Let me check to make sure I haven't missed one. We do. We do have a super chat from Benji here with a 5. It seems Firesprite might be working on a VR game. Yeah, possibly a Horizon game. Is this the Vita situation? Big first-party studio focusing on console. Well, Benji, one of the reports that came out from a prominent VR site a while back was that Sony was working with their first-party teams to basically heavily ensure that VR2 got a lot more support than we saw with PSVR 1. And one of the ways they were pursuing that was really working with their teams to say, hey, even if your game is like a flat screen focused game, right? Have some kind of VR in there as well. I will not be shocked, Benji, if you see most of the PlayStation first party studios games to have some kind of VR2 integration. Now, does that mean I think you're going to be able to play, every single, whatever it is? You take any of them. You take The Last of Us Part 3, or you take whatever. Does that mean that you can play every one of these PlayStation games front to back in VR2? That to me seems pretty unlikely. But some kind of VR mode, some kind of VR experience, some kind of to really beef up, right, that offering, I think you are. I think you're going to see a lot of that from their first party, because the thing is PSVR 1 didn't have the strongest support, right, outside of smaller projects, outside of indie projects, and especially I would say it didn't have a ton of support from first party, shockingly, right? Like, that's almost the most surprising thing. It's like, this is a first party device, and yet you saw very little resources from first-party studios put into it. So I think you do see a bigger focus. I think the hardware is so much better on PS5 than PS4 that you can really make VR work better, right? Like last gen, it was hard to make a AAA VR game that worked really well, right? With just the PS4's capabilities. It's going to be a lot more doable on PS5. So, I think you do. I think you see a lot more VR focus. Again, does that mean that all these games are playable fully on VR? No. Does that mean that this is going to take away resources and things like that? No. I just think they're going to work with their teams to really make sure that thing's not getting a huge drought. So, yeah, I could totally see something Horizon related on VR. Totally. I could see it for most of their franchises, to be honest. Totally. JCat here with a $1.99 super chat with the sticker saying thanks. Thank you, JCat. Thank you for being so amazing. Thank you so much. All right, we still got a lot of questions to dig through. Let's keep going. Thanks for a good turnout today, everyone. Thanks for all the great questions. The Deadly 8. Hello there, Benji. I just joined. I didn't know you were streaming on Wednesdays. It's random. I hate to say that. It's random. If I had a set date and a set time, these streams could absolutely be bigger because there would be consistency with it. It's random for me strictly because of my work schedule. I work in retail, and that completely is random. What day of the week I'm working and what time of the day I'm working, right? Some days I'm there in the morning. Some days I'm there in the nighttime. Some days I'm off on a Wednesday. Some days I'm off on a Friday. Like, it's just totally random. So with a retail schedule, it's like impossible. Like, I literally don't have a set schedule. Every single week, my schedule is different than the week it was before. So it's random. Wednesday's just the day that worked out this week. My question for you is, PlayStation have allotted a lot of unannounced first-party games in development. Yep. When could we see them? You know, this is a great point because the two big announcements we got at the PlayStation Showcase were almost from the most unlikely studio, right? They were from Insomniac, who has also just released games. We still don't have, you know, that new Sucker Punch announcement. We don't have that new, you know, Sony Bend announcement. We don't have those Naughty Dog announcements. We don't have Media Molecule. We don't have, you know, Pixel Opus. Like, I could go down the line, right? Most of the studios that don't have an announced game still don't have an announced game. Main reason for that, I think, is probably a lot of these projects are still very early, right? Sucker Punch, Ghost of Tsushima only came out not too long ago. They just did the director's cut with the expansion. You know, there's no doubt in my mind they have a new game in development, but we're still probably a little ways off from that. You know, Naughty Dog probably still got a little bit to go, though I was surprised that there was no Factions 2. I thought that was a lock. Like, my lock of the show, besides God of War, was Factions. I was very surprised to see no Factions there. But again, you know, The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't that long ago, so again, they probably still have a bit to go for their next project. Bend is the same scenario, so I think there's a reason we haven't seen these teams get announced games, but when will we see them get, you know, their big reveals and announcements? Probably not until, maybe something at the Game Awards. I'll predict one big PlayStation game gets announced at the Game Awards because that's becoming a massive platform. But I think a lot of stuff not until whenever their showcase is next year, you know? They have such a stacked lineup for next year that they don't necessarily have to announce a ton of new games anytime soon, right? They did this. They gave you some of those Insomniac teases to, you know, kind of whet your appetite, get you excited for some stuff. But next year, they got God of War hitting. They got Horizon hitting. They got Gran Turismo hitting. They got, you know, a bunch of stuff. So they can keep people kind of preoccupied for most of next year without having to give you a ton of new reveals. So whenever they get a showcase next year, and also maybe one big one at the Game Awards. I'll be honest, I'm surprised there's no Nvidia questions. I thought for sure we were going to get questions about that. That's why it's in my thumbnail. I'm surprised. There might be some in here. I'm still going. I'm not done streaming, but I am shocked by that. I thought for sure people were going to announce to me about that because there's some juicy stuff in there, and I can tell you some of those games are real. I know for a fact some of them are real. Hi, Benji. If God of War, Horizon, and Gran Turismo were supposed to be 2021 games, which were supposed to be the PlayStation lineup for 2022, I would not be surprised if at one point Spider-Man was. Keep in mind, Spider-Man is now 2023. Wouldn't shock me if at one point, right? I'm not saying this was any time recently, but if we're just theorizing here, Fernando, I could totally see at one point Spider-Man 2 being envisioned as a 2022 game. Because keep in mind, Spider-Man, the original, was 2018. And so that would have been a 4-year development cycle. So I could totally see that, Fernando, especially now that we know it's 2023. That is a game that probably when it was first being envisioned, they were like, yeah, 2022 is a date that would make sense for this. But then, of course, we had the pandemic. So I think that was probably one very big one, was probably Spidey, and probably Factions 2. I think that was another big one. And the question now, since it didn't get announced, is has Factions 2 also slipped to 2023? Or is that still maybe 2022? Who knows? But I could see both of those originally being envisioned as 2022, like big hitters, Factions 2 and Spider-Man. Those both would make sense to me. Jose Contreras, what are the sales numbers for Death Stranding? Unfortunately, I don't have them. It looks like the only time Sony gave numbers way after it came out on PC. Yeah, I don't know the exact units for that. All I can tell you with Death Stranding is it made a profit. Also, that, what's their names? Who published that game on PC? It actually wasn't Sony. Come on. Wasn't it the same people that, published Control? Come on. 505 Games, yeah, 505 Games. I can tell you 505 Games said that they made money on that deal on PC. So here's the thing. With Death Stranding, we know it made money. The question is just, did it make a lot of money? Or did it make just a little bit of money, right? We don't know the profit margins on that game. But we know from Kojima himself that the game was profitable. And we also know from 505 Games reports that they made money on the PC version. So, you know, Death Stranding, some people like to paint this game as a giant bomb. Absolutely not. It was not a bomb. Death Stranding was not a bomb. Like, definitively, it wasn't a bomb. You don't make a profit and it was a bomb. But the main question is, did it make enough money that it can be turned into like a big franchise, right? We have those reports. Sounds like Death Stranding 2 might happen. But that is still the unknown. Like, did this game make a ton of profit or just a little bit of profit? That we don't know. But it wasn't a bomb. Like, they did not lose money on this project. But the total sales numbers, don't know. Don't know. Can't tell you. Brant saying, just wanted to say what's up, Benji. What is up, Brant? Sounds PP7 might have been in your live reaction. What do you make of the Uncharted collection? Many anticipated free patches like The Last of Us. Could there be a free upgrade path for PS5, or will it be Spidey remastered? Total guess here, Silence PP7, because I don't have the inside info and I don't know if Sony themselves have reported this. I'm assuming for the PS5 versions, you're gonna pay. Sony's making you pay at least $10 to upgrade every single cross-gen game moving forward. I can't see them giving away this for free. Can't see it. So I think you're going to pay for this, to be honest. I don't know that for sure. Maybe they do a free thing, but I don't think so. I think they're going to make you pay for it on PlayStation 5. Do I think it'll necessarily be a $70? You must pay $70 to get this on PS5. I'm not going to go that far since these are like re-releases. I don't think it'll be free, though. Sony's really not in the business of giving away stuff for free. They're really not. They're trying to charge you for as much as they possibly can. So, hard for me to see it. Hard for me to see it. Big Anna, or Big Anha, hope I'm saying that right. Hi, Benji. From Twitter, how are you? What do you think about the article on Deadline about 10 projects between Sony Pictures Entertainment and PlayStation? Makes sense, right? We have a ton of evidence they're all in on this. They created an entire division that's literally responsible for this, like strictly. Like, they literally created a division within Sony Pictures to work on PlayStation IP for movies, you know, TV series, etc. So, doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, we already know for sure, like we already have Uncharted, we already have Twisted Metal now, we already have The Last of Us, you know, I think there's actually even a couple more. Not surprised. Not surprised. You know, we're going to see some more stuff from this, yeah. Especially if The Last of Us is a big hit, y'all, they're going to go all out. If the Uncharted movie does well and The Last of Us series does big on HBO, Sony's going to be all in on this business. Why does it make so much sense for Sony in particular? They have a movie division, right? This isn't like Microsoft and this isn't like Nintendo, which you are starting to see projects from, right? Microsoft has a Halo series that's going to be coming. You have Nintendo, who of course was involved with Detective Pikachu, and now we know that there's a Mario movie on the way from Illumination. So like they are doing some, but Sony themselves literally owns a movie studio. Like they own a film company. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for them to pursue that with their IP more even than Microsoft and Nintendo because it boosts both, right? Helps their visibility for the PlayStation side of things for those games, and it also helps their movie and film studios. So it literally just makes perfect sense. So yeah, I expect to see a lot of projects, a whole bunch. Miles Morales, hey there, Benji. Do you think superhero games will thrive in this day and age? We have so many great looking superhero games. Do you think they will sell and review well like Spider-Man 2, etc.? as long as they're good. So you've been seeing people talk about superhero fatigue for the last 10 years, and it still hasn't happened. Still hadn't happened, at least for Marvel. I actually think there is evidence there's superhero fatigue for DC. But here's the thing. If you keep the quality high, I don't really see superheroes going anywhere for a very long time, because there's so many different stories and so many different ways you can do things. One thing, people love to compare superheroes to the Wild West movies, and that just doesn't really make sense. I've always found that comparison super weird. A Wild West movie, because, you know, those used to be big, right? They were really big for a period of time. There was a lot of Western movies, and then as we know, that genre kind of died out. And you still get Westerns occasionally, but it's not like it was. Like, there was a period of time it was all about Westerns. And you see people make this comparison with superheroes. You see them be like, oh, well, at some point, superheroes are going to go the same way as the Western. Why? Westerns take place in one area, primarily, the Wild West of the United States, in a specific time period, and it's specifically about, you know, cowboys and you know, six shooters, and like, it's a like set thing. With comics or heroes, you can literally go anywhere in the world with them, literally anywhere. You can go to outer space with them. You can go anywhere in time with them. You have a million different characters. You have a million different power sets. Like, they're not comparable. They're different things. Like, you can tell a trillion different stories within comics than you can with a Western. A Western is going to be, no matter how creative you get with it, it's always going to have primarily a set setting with a set time period and a set feel. You know what I get? You know what I mean? So I've always found that particular comparison super weird. It's one you see often in Hollywood, that they compare, well, eventually this is going to be like the Western. I just don't see it. However, just being a comic book or just being based off a big character doesn't mean anything if the quality's not there, right? And I think you're seeing that with DC. I hate to say it. I know DC fans will get upset. I think there is signs of superhero fatigue within DC. However, I don't think it means they're doomed. In fact, I think the Batman is going to be gigantic, right? That movie. So, not completely, but you got to make quality products, right? So, as long as these superhero games stay high quality, if Spider-Man 2 is an excellent game, if Marvel's Wolverine is an excellent game, they're going to sell a freaking ton of copies. However, if they're met like the Avengers was, they're not going to sell a ton of copies. That's really all it comes down to. I have total faith in Insomniac, so I think Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine will both be gigantic. But for all these other games like Guardians and, you know, etc., Midnight Suns, it's all going to be about how good those games are. But yes, if they keep being good, I mean, they're going to make Spider-Man 3 and 4, and they're going to sell 1 billion copies. So, yeah. As long as they're good, they will sell. Highlander with a nice comment. Hey, Benji, hope you and your daughter are doing good. Both of us are doing great right now, Highlander. Great. I'm starting to put some pounds and some muscle back on. Still have a long way to go. Long way to go. But I'm finally adding size back. I'm up about 4 or 5 pounds since I started lifting again in the last probably about 4 weeks. Some of that's going to be water weight and things like that. But there's some times in my life I've been pretty big. So let me tell you, muscle memory is a very real thing. And I'm finally adding muscle back. So I got so skinny. I shredded myself down. I lost a lot of muscle when I did that. I got down to 142 pounds and I'm 5'10". You know, I'm not a super tall guy, but 142 at 5'10", you're pretty rail thin. I just got myself so skinny. And now I'm bulking back up. I wanted to be ultra lean, but I dieted so hard that I lost a lot of muscle too. And I wasn't currently in like my biggest form. And I'm back to lifting pretty hard and still on the skinny side for sure, right? Like I'm only up from like 142 right now. I'm like 147, 148, depending on what I eat. But give me a few months and yeah, I'm going to be pretty freaking strong. Muscle memory is legit. Like there's research on it. Muscle memory is a very real thing. I will make gains faster because I've been bigger at times than someone who's a total newbie. So thank God for muscle memory. But yeah, I'm doing good. Daughter's good too. All right. Oh, good question. Danger Man. I wonder if Horizon Forbidden West dropped PS4 support if it could have came out this year. I mean, I think cross-gen games have the most messy delays. That's actually a great point, Danger Man. It's a good question. We will probably never know. You know, it's not something that's going to come out, but it wouldn't surprise me. If there was never a PS4 version planned, I could have seen, and I don't know, right? I don't know the intimates of development on this game, but it wouldn't shock me. Because Danger Man, as you said, we know from the past, even the generation before this, cross-gen development starts to get a little tricky. You saw this issue with Dragon Age Inquisition. That team has talked about that. They're going cross-gen on that, had some issues with scope and design, and they had to pare things back. Now, does that mean that's going to be true of every game? I'm not saying that, but who knows? It is a possibility. You know, it's a possibility. It wouldn't shock me. Oh, JCat. Jeff Grubb confirmed he was referring to Battlefield on his podcast. Yeah, it makes sense, right? It was just the most obvious game. If any game was going to get a delay that was a big one out of what's left in this year, Battlefield seemed to be that game. So, but then he's saying Grubb is hitting on Twitter that's not delayed. I think he's just saying it. So Grubb saying it's an overreaction. I think he just means the stock price. Like it shouldn't have taken that big of a hit, but it sounds like it is getting delayed. I think we had a super chat. Let me see. Let me make sure I didn't miss a super chat. Benji with a 2 super chat. Nvidia leak insights, please. Yes, let me give you those Nvidia leaks. Okay. So there's a little bit I can say about the Nvidia leaks. And then there's also stuff I don't know, right? So I'm not going to pretend like I'm the ultimate insider here who knows everything about the Nvidia leaks. Here's what I can tell you. Like, straight up, I literally know for a fact. Not a theory. And Windows Central reported similar things. But the games I'm talking about aren't the necessarily same ones mentioned in this Windows Central article. But here's what I can say. There are very real games in that list that are unannounced. And how do I know that some of this list is very legit? There are code names on those files for games that are unannounced, and that code name is real, and I know the game it's attached to. So, games up, plural. So, like, Nvidia came out and said afterwards, which I find hilarious, which is smart of them, right? They're covering their own butt. But Nvidia just came out and said, I think yesterday, oh, the leak is real, but it's speculation. Okay. Nvidia did not correctly speculate the code names that devs use on unannounced games. You don't do that. You can't just speculatively create, because most of the time those code names have literally nothing to do with the game. They put a random name on it. I am aware of games in that list that are code named, and I know what the game is, and there's no other way Nvidia can have that name unless it came from the devs. Now, can I tell you that every single game on that list is real because it was an absolutely massive list? No. I am not going to come on here and tell you that run to the bank. Every single game on this list, just start celebrating now because they're all happening. I cannot tell you that. What I can tell you, there are 1,000% games on that list that are real. Some of them completely unannounced. And one thing I will say, if you are a dev here and you had a code name in that file, I could tell you you're doing cartwheels and you are celebrating because at least the actual game did not leak out, because some of these are pretty heavy hitters. So that would have sucked, right? If all of a sudden, welp, whoops, here's the name of your game just in the file. Thank God some of those teams were using code names, because some of those are absolutely 1,000% real. But again, I want to be very, 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 very clear here. Not necessarily every single one of these games on this list are real, and also doesn't mean every single game on this list is going to come out. But yes, there's some very real stuff in there. There's some very real stuff. So, just telling you, there are very real games in that Nvidia leak. That's all I can say. All I can say. But yep, it's real. Some of it, at least. I don't have inside info on every single one of them, but you saw Windows Central, for example, mention the codename of an Xbox game. You saw Jez talk about this on Twitter that was unreported, and I'm not even referring to the game he's talking about. I'm talking about other codename games that are on there that I independently know that codename of that were on this list. So if there's games that Jez knows and there's games that I know, there's some very real stuff here. But can I come out and tell you for sure you're going to get Final Fantasy IX Remake? I don't know that. I'm going to straight up tell you, don't know if that particular element of this is real. Some of the stuff on here clearly must have been canceled games, right? For example, Scalebound is still on this list. I'm highly doubtful Scalebound's currently in development. So, again, don't just immediately assume Final Fantasy IX Remake's coming, Tactics is coming, woo, we can celebrate. I don't know about all that, but there is 1,000% some real games on there that are unannounced. 1,000%. Jose Contreras, what was your highest weight? The most I ever weighed was 186. 186. So about 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, Jose. Highest weight I ever got was 186. I'm a naturally lean built guy, like just pure naturally. If I'm not stuffing my face and I'm not, if I'm just chilling, if I'm just eating a regular diet, I have almost visible abs just living my life. So I'm built super lean. Like I'm just built that way. But the highest I ever got, the biggest I ever got was 186 pounds. So 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. A lot. It's a pretty big gap. Pretty big gap. All right. I'm going to go for about 15 more minutes and then I got to call the chat. I think we just had a super chat. Highlander001. Your thoughts on Microsoft on bringing Alpha xCloud to South America, Australia, and Japan? Do you think this will be big? Yeah. xCloud is going to be really important to the future of Xbox. Now, here's the one thing I do want to state that streaming is never, in my opinion, going to be the number one way people interact with games. Or if that scenario was to happen, I think it's very far away, like 20 years away, like not anytime soon. So, sometimes people are really negative on streaming because they're like, I want to own a console. I want to play, games at the best settings that I can, or I want to have a high-end PC. I'm with you. I'm the same way. I don't play anything really streaming. I've messed around with xCloud a little bit, and it works surprisingly well. But I think a lot of gamers, the main way they're always going to interact with games, for the most part, is going to be, on their console, on their PC, with the game downloaded, on the best hardware they can. But I also think that you will see streaming become a bigger part of the way that the overall industry interacts with games, right? Whether it's with, especially younger people, that maybe might not have the money to go out and buy a big expensive console, especially in emerging markets. At least this is a way people can interact with them and stream this game on, they don't necessarily need that expensive dedicated hardware for it. I think that's a big factor. I think you'll see a lot of gamers interact with streaming in ways like demos, like, hey, you don't even got to download the demo. Maybe you want to actually have that game installed on your hardware whenever you play it. But if you just want to play the demo to get an idea for the game, I could totally see lots of people just streaming demos. I could see lots of people, you can start streaming the game while it's installing. So if you want to start playing and not have to wait for that whole game to install, you stream the first, 30 minutes while it's installing. Like all this kind of stuff I could see in the future. So expanding xCloud, getting it to more markets, all this kind of stuff, very important, Highlander, very important. And over the next 20 years, you're going to see streaming become a bigger and bigger and bigger part of gaming. Again, I don't necessarily think that it's going to hit the biggest. But it'll grow. Yeah, it'll grow. And it's very important. Australia's good. Japan's good. South America's good. As many markets as you can get it in, right? Thanks for that super chat. And Highlander, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. I know you were recovering. I hope you're doing good, Highlander. Michael Yu, I know you can't disclose what you know from the Nvidia leaks, but once they're officially announced, do you think people's mind will be blown? By a couple of them, yeah. There's a couple that I know people freak out at. Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple I know for sure that people freak out. Again, I want to be very clear, like I always am on this chat. I am not like the ultra insider. I'm not the guy like Jeff Grubb or other people that are constantly researching, constantly finding these things out, searching for as many info as they possibly can, all that kind of stuff. That is not me. So don't ever assume that I'm the guy who knows everything about the industry. But you don't get as many industry contacts as I have and not hear some stuff, right? Like it's literally impossible. Like even if I'm not trying, oftentimes I still hear about stuff. You just don't get that many industry contacts and not hear things. So yeah. Yep, there. Put it this way: there's particularly one game that I think people will kind of freak out about. All right. But there's a lot of stuff in there I don't know, right? There's a lot of code names and stuff that I have no idea what they are. So I just know what some of them are. All right, we got time for a few more questions. Yeah, Danger Man says God of War live action would require an insane budget. Yes, it would. The budget would be massive. Massive. Oh, Ken B was asking about the Nvidia leaks. Yep. I can tell you specifically the Square Enix stuff. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea because I know that was one of the things that people were really freaking out about. Yo, is Final Fantasy IX Remake real? Yo, is Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster real? I can straight up tell you I don't know. Those I don't know. Those I don't know. I do not have any info for you on that. Kirby O. Louise with 18 million Game Pass subs already. And higher than that now. Yeah, a lot higher. Microsoft would need to sell 54 million first-party game copies a year to make the same amount of money. Well, listen, it's no coincidence that Xbox is generating more revenue per year right now than they ever have in the entire history of the Xbox brand existing. It's one thing people are kind of missing. You see people be like, oh, Xbox, they're not selling that many games right now. They're not really. Think about the height of the 360. Think about when the 360 was gigantic and basically had double the install base of the Xbox One and all them Xbox Live Gold subs and people buying Halo and all that stuff. Guess what? Microsoft made more money this last year. This was the biggest year ever for the Xbox division in terms of revenue. I'm not necessarily saying profit, I'm saying in terms of revenue. Xbox has never been bigger. I mean, Game Pass is 100% a part of that. There's a reason why every single earnings quarter for the last year, they've mentioned increases in subscriptions have led to part of the boost. Increases in subscriptions have led to the overall boost. Yeah, they're generating a lot of money through Game Pass. Now, they're also spending a lot of money on Game Pass. So that is to be very clear. Even though Game Pass revenue is giant right now, it's already big. And it's only going to get bigger if they can get up to the range that I keep hearing they want, which is 50 million subs. I keep hearing that's the golden number. I can't tell you that that's 100% fact. I haven't heard that from Xbox's mouth, but from people around Xbox in that hemisphere, the number that keeps floating is 50 mil, right? That's the golden goose number, 50 million subs. If they can get to that, the amount of money is just astronomical. So right now, I can't tell you that they're making a ton of money in terms of profit off Game Pass because, again, you're signing all these third-party deals. You're getting these games day one. You're buying these devs to boost your portfolio. So I can't tell you it's a pure profit, kind of venture for them yet. But in terms of revenue, yeah, Game Pass is big, and it's only going to get bigger. Dreamwalker, this isn't surprising. They'll both be bigger. Dreamwalker, we won't know Game Pass numbers, but Vanguard, Call of Duty, and Battlefield are bigger than Halo Infinite on social. Yeah, of course, they're bigger games. Did anyone think that they're not? I didn't think so. I mean, Call of Duty will be the biggest game this year. It's going to be number one. It's number one every year. Literally, the only year Call of Duty is not number one is Grand Theft Auto launch years. Call of Duty is the biggest brand in the world, man. So, yeah, Call of Duty number one is not surprising at all. And Battlefield at its peak, when Battlefield can be as big as possible. For example, Battlefield 1, it's bigger than Halo. So, yeah, that to me is not shocking at all, at all. Nothing about that surprises me. All right, what time? We got 5 minutes. 5 minutes and we're done. 5 minutes and we're done. It'll be interesting, though, to see how Halo's total players compares. That's going to be an interesting thing with free-to-play. That is the interesting thing. We still don't know. We still don't know. We still don't know how Halo will play out in comparison to those other two games with free-to-play. It really depends on if the free-to-play is a huge hit or not. It has the lowest entry, barrier of entry level. So if the free-to-play takes off, its ceiling is real freaking high because it's free-to-play, whereas, Vanguard and 2042 are not. But outside of the free-to-play just massively taking off, yeah, those two games being bigger than Halo, not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. Literally nothing this year will be bigger than Call of Duty. And nothing next year will be bigger than Call of Duty. That's the crazy thing. I can already tell you, you guys want to know what the best-selling game of next year is? Modern Warfare 2. It is. Nothing outsells Modern Warfare 2 next year. So there's your best-selling game of 2022. That's how crazy Call of Duty is. We are still, 3 or 4, we're 4 months away from next year, and I already know what the best-selling game of next year is. It's that consistent. Whoa! I didn't know this. Danger Man, you're spreading info to me. Like I said, I'm not the ultimate insider. Danger Man 1337 is Titanfall 3 real? Because Tom Henderson has said that it's in the early stages to me on Twitter DM. Well, Danger Man, you're leaking the DMs. But I could see it. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Put it this way. We know at one point that they wanted to make Titanfall 3. Then Apex Legends became such a monster that it kind of didn't really make sense to make Titanfall 3 because Apex, put all your eggs in the Apex basket because it's so massive. But now that Apex is kind of in a steady state and they have that going, they have that rocking, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all that, some of the team would be like, hey, Apex is good. Apex is in a good spot. Of course, we're going to still support that game for years to come, but let's also start working on something new. Not shocking at all. I could absolutely see Titanfall 3 happening, especially, and here's the key here, especially if oh, come on. What's his name? Oh my God. Lead of Respawn. Oh my God, the founder. My brain, dude. Vince Appella. Especially if Vince wants to make it. Vince has been so successful under EA that he has a lot of weight to throw around in that company right now. So if Vince goes to EA and Vince is like, we really want to make Titanfall 3. We want to make it. I think they'll give him that leeway. Yep, I think they will. To me, it's really a question of if Vince and Respawn really want to make that game, EA will let them. It's just a matter of if they really want to or not. But it doesn't surprise me if it is. I could totally see it. And that would be hype. Yeah, this is a huge mystery question here from Voss. Why is Sony doing nothing with Bloodborne? Not even a PS5 patch? I don't know. I could not tell you. There's such a big cult following for the game. I've said this before. If you don't ever see anything again out of Bloodborne, one of the most obvious missteps in the history of video games to me. And what do I mean by that? Do I mean it has the biggest overall, like for a business, like misstep? No. Things like the Xbox One DRM was a way more colossal failure. Something like the Wii U name and branding was a way more colossal failure. I'm not saying not making Bloodborne 2 or remasters is the same level as that. What I mean, it's like one of the most missteps is in that it's like one of the most obvious, easy wins you can get. Like it's just a win. You can't lose. Like you announce Bloodborne 2 or you announce like a sick PS5 remaster, you're going to win. You're going to sell a bunch of copies. People are going to be super happy. Like it's just an auto win. There's very few ways that scenario can go bad. So that's what I mean. Not like it's like the biggest failure ever and they're going to lose tons of money, but it's just like such an obvious win. If it never happens, there's got to be some sort of weird backstory there. Like if there's never anything else Bloodborne, there must be a very weird behind the scenes story around why that wouldn't happen. Because it makes no sense. None. Okay, all right, one or two more, and I gotta go. One or two more. Oh yeah, one other thing to touch on really quick here. Dreamwalker says, or Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for PC. It seems not feasible, and Sony would never pick that game. In regards to the Nvidia leaks, one thing I want to make really clear here. Some of those games would be on that list not because they're coming to PC. This is one thing that's being misreported. That the only reason a game would be in this listing or this database is because it's coming to PC. Not true. The way this leak worked and the way some of these games are in here has nothing to do with the PC version. So I just want to be very clear there. And I totally get Dreamwalker why you're saying that, because a lot of places are reporting that. And that's one of the big mistakes of the reporting on this story, is you're seeing a lot of the reporting from even big places being like, oh, this means that these games are coming to PC. Nope. A game can be on this list and never be coming to PC. That's all I'm going to say. That's not every game is on here because of a theoretical PC version. That's all I'll say. Because, yeah, stuff with development. Okay. One or two more. Ooh, here's a great question from Pio. Do you think Series X and S will outsell 360 in hardware? I know they don't care hardware that much, but still Xbox has hype right now. No, it's a great question, Pio. And I do think that Microsoft is still more invested in selling hardware than they are in terms of selling games. So I think getting a big install base on hardware is still really important to Microsoft. It's not like their only goal, right? They want Game Pass subs. They want people buying their games and playing their games on PC and playing Game Pass on PC and mobile and all that. But I do think they still want to sell a lot of consoles. So, like, if you gave me a ranking on what's more important, selling a bunch of units of a game or getting a huge 100 million install base of a console out there, for Microsoft, I definitely think they still care a lot more about selling consoles than they do about selling boxed copies of games. So it's still definitely an important metric. Not the only metric, but one. Will it outsell 360 is the big question. There's zero doubt it's going to outsell Xbox One and by a lot, right? There's just no doubt it's going to sell way over Xbox One did. The question is that 360, and that to me, we're still so early, it's hard to say. I really think they can get over 70 million this gen. I really do. And we're so early, so I could be radically off. But if you look at the games, if you look at the studios, if you look at the content down the line, you look at the attraction of the hardware, which is really nice this gen, you look at Game Pass, it is hard for me to see them selling less than 70 million. It's just hard. I really think they can get there. 60 to 70 million at the floor. I mean, even Xbox One, is still far away from 70 million, but they still sold tens and tens of millions of units of consoles. And that was with catastrophic failures and a far weaker first party than they're going to have this gen. I really can't see them doing less than 60, 70, like at the floor. Now, can Series X and S hit that 100 million range where no Xbox has hit yet? That's the big question. And that to me is a lot harder. They've never got there, right? Even the 360 with all its success wasn't a 100 million selling unit, right? That's like that elite territory. Selling over 100 million units of hardware, you're an elite company, right? The best selling consoles there are out there. That is the question. Can they hit that? And I'm going to go with no. I could be wrong, but 100 million just seems really tough for me. But I think 60 to 70 they can really get to. Yeah, I really think they can get to 60 to 70 million, which would be a colossal improvement over Xbox One. Deadly 8, sorry. Let me hit Deadly 8. Deadly 8 really wants me to get his question. I'm going to do one more. Deadly 8 question, then one more. This has been a long stream, which I've loved. I love doing these streams, but I don't want to be here all day. I know you guys all got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. So Deadly 8, can you please respond to the second part of the question? What is it? What is it, Deadly 8? Let me see it. Trying to find it, Deadly 8. Part 2 of my question. PlayStation have said they have more than 25 games in development. Don't you think it is weird that some of the studios who are pretty far in development didn't announce their next game? Deadly 8, I know people get sick of hearing it, but I really think part of it's the pandemic impact. I really do, Deadly 8. Here's the thing you have to keep in mind. Right now, the golden rule of thumb in the industry, and again, this is going to totally vary. You want to be careful when you paint broad strokes in the industry. But kind of the general rule of thumb is you lost about a year, right? About a year of development time. Maybe for some studios, it's about 6 months. Maybe for some studios, it's bigger. Maybe for some studios, you feel like you lost about 16 months worth of work, which that's an extreme case, right? But like, you get what I'm getting at. The kind of view that like 8 to 12 months of time just kind of lost from that, pandemic impact just overall, right? And again, for some studios, it's way less. You've seen some say they were hardly hit by the pandemic, but then there's other studios I know that were hit really hard. So this is going to vary. When I say it's around a year, you can kind of lose. Don't just assume every game got pushed back a year. It's just kind of, right? You can even look at the number of delays and look at how many games got pushed and kind of start to see that trend, right? Look at all those games that were 2021 that are now 2022. There's a lot, right? You look at the WB slate, you look at Horizon, you look at et cetera, et cetera. You look at Halo catching a year delay, all that stuff. Around a year lost dev time. So I think that's a big part of it, Deadly 8. A lot of these teams, if there was no pandemic, maybe they would have been announcing. But since that pandemic, it delayed things, hurt development time, especially if you're early on a project. If you were almost done when the pandemic and work from home hit, it impacts you a lot less, right? If you already have all your mocap done, if you already have all this kind of stuff done, you already have your core gameplay elements completely figured out, you're just in bug, polishing, fixing stages, that hurt you a lot less. But if you were in the deep of the pandemic, it's all work from home, there's no mocap going on, you're early on in a project, you're still brainstorming ideas, it hits you hard. So I think that's the main thing, Deadly 8. I really think it's just we lost around a year of development time. So I think that's it. All right, I'm going to pick one more question. One more. I'm sorry. I wish I could pick more, but one more. We're going to be back next week, okay? We're going to be back next week. I'm going to grab this one since it's just close to the bottom and it's easy for me to read. And if I missed your question, I am super, super sorry. I will get to them. Bring your questions next week. We will 1000% be back next week. We're going to be back every week, baby, for the live chat. Okay. So last one here. Last one. Sorry, I just had it and then I lost it. Where was it? Where was it? Here we go. DB will rise. Hey Benji, I used your methodology for counting YouTube views. God of War Ragnarok is leading the pack by far as expected, but the most surprising is definitely Wolverine. I'm with you. What are your early sales predictions? I'm completely with you. Anyone that missed it when I tweeted this out, this was as of the 24-hour mark, so things could have changed since then. I just tweeted out, you guys know, I like to cover metrics, I like to cover views, I like to cover all that kind of stuff. I'm a nerd for data. And, you know, the trailer breakdowns, after 24 hours, the number one most viewed trailer overall from the PlayStation Showcase, God of War Ragnarok. Number 2, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, though, was Wolverine with a huge 7+ million in its first 24 hours. Keep in mind the way this methodology works. It's views across all channels, and it's trailer uploads. Let me explain the methodology for anyone that likes to do this stuff for fun on their own as well. I personally never include reaction videos or like extended breakdown videos whenever I'm doing cumulative trailer views. And why do I do that? There's actually a really specific reason. It's because an influencer's audience size can have an outlandish impact on gauging overall interest. And what do I mean by that? If you have like a really huge YouTuber that you just love, right? You watch like all their content and you don't care about Wolverine, but you like to watch this content creator, you like to see their reactions, so you watch that Wolverine reaction video from them. You could still have 0% interest in that game, right? You just watched it because you liked that creator and you wanted to see how they reacted to this. Now, I'm sure that has some influence, but I strictly look at pure trailer uploads, whether that's IGN, whether it's PlayStation, whether it's Xbox, because to watch that trailer, you're seeking it out, right? You're either typing in the search bar, finding that, or you are like on the PlayStation and you're like, oh man, there's a PlayStation game. I'm on the PlayStation channel. I want to see this. There's no reaction or anything. This is a pure trailer. I just want to watch this trailer. Like, you're clicking it. So I think it's more valuable whenever you get rid of those, you know, content creator reactions and stuff. And I love reaction videos, so I'm not knocking that. I'm just gauging interest. And yeah, God of War number 1. So Wolverine doing over 7 million in 24 hours is incredible. Clearly, to me, the biggest thing this shows, put it this way, if some other dev put out a Wolverine, like that exact same teaser, the identical thing, and it wasn't PlayStation and Insomniac, I do not believe you would have seen 7 million views in 24 hours. I really don't. I think it would have gotten nice attention, you know, especially if it was from another big dev, right? I think it definitely would have got attention. But the reason this hit so hard, the reason it was so big, is because of how good those Spider-Man games were, right? This is the reason this is getting that kind of reaction and Guardians hasn't, or Midnight Suns hasn't. Like, people played Spider-Man 1, they played Miles Morales, they know those games were dope, and now you get Wolverine from the same dev studio, right? Insomniac, and you're getting that PlayStation experience that you already know was so good for 2 games. That really elevated the hype, right? Wolverine would have been big no matter what, but it's way bigger being Insomniac and PlayStation after Spider-Man proved itself. So sales numbers, I don't know that it's going to be as big as Spider-Man. I wouldn't go in there saying Wolverine's going to sell, 20 million units like Spider-Man 1 did. But can I see this game getting to 10 million if it's as good as Spider-Man? Yeah, I can. And this is assuming it's as good as Spider-Man, right? If you take a quality hit, I'm not going to tell you it's going to for sure sell 10 million plus. But if it's freaking good, Wolverine's a super popular character. You're getting that Insomniac game, 10 plus million, yo. 10 plus million, it's going to happen. But that's assuming the quality is good. All right, everybody, I'm going to call it there. Thanks for a good stream. Thank you for an awesome stream. Sorry if I missed your question. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Thanks for getting me over 3,000 subs, everybody. Like the video if you like doing these chats. Helps the YouTube algorithm, helps people find my channel, and helps it grow. And follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I'm sure most of you, if you're here seeing me, follow me on Twitter because it's my way bigger platform than my YouTube. But just in case you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm Benji-Sales on there as well. All right, everyone, I'm going to bounce out. I will see you either next week here on YouTube or I will see you on Twitter probably as soon as today. All right, everyone, stay safe, play some games. I'll catch you all next time. Have a great one. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.